Have you ever found yourself Googling book club questions 5 minutes before your next book club meeting? Yeah, I think we've all been there, but today we're changing that. After hosting dozens of book club discussions with my Busy with Books online book club, but also with my local in-person book club, I have found that there are a few questions that work for any book. First things first, you do not need to prepare this book discussion as if it was a university seminar. I'm not saying that, but I do find that having a few go-to questions can really avoid that awkward silence where everyone is staring at each other and people go, well, so what did everyone think? And then the book discussion is over after 5 minutes. That's not really why we're coming to book club, right? So here are my 6 go-to book club questions that work for any type of book and get people talking. Question number 1, how did this book make you feel? This one is simple but gold. I find that this is the perfect entry question into the discussion because some people want to jump straight into the characters, others want to talk about the plot. But this gives people a moment to pause and think, well, how did that make me feel? And all feelings are valid here. I once asked this question in my Busy with Books online book club, and someone said, I actually wanted to throw this book against the wall. I just hated it so much. And that's a valid feeling too. Someone else said, oh my god, I hated the main character, but I actually really loved the story and it left me feeling very empowered and fulfilled. So it's a really great conversation starter, a perfect warm-up question, because everyone has feelings, right? So for those people who need a little bit more time to think about their thoughts around the book, this is the perfect one because everyone has a gut feeling or how this book made them feel right after they finished it. Question number 2, was there a character you related to or maybe couldn't stand? Nothing sparks a debate like a polarizing character or the character that everyone thinks they should have cut from chapter 2. People will have opinions on the characters. I can guarantee you that. I mean, I have had book club moments where we literally talked about one character and their bad decisions for like half of the discussion. And it's always really interesting because these conversations can get quite heated, but in a fun way, you know? And I think they always also tell a lot about the people that you are in the room with. And one of the main reasons why I enjoy going to book club is because I can get to know the people in my group much better through the books because you can hear about their standpoints, you understand their values, their stories, their backgrounds through talking about specific characters, the decisions that they make and how annoying people found them basically. I also find that this question gives people permission to love a character but also hate a character without judgment. And I find that these usually different opinions on characters lead to very meaningful and memorable conversations. Question number 3, what would you have done differently in this book? That can be things like character choice, we just talked about characters already, that can be the ending, that could maybe be the writing style, but in general this question just invites opinions. And usually people have lots of them. People can start the answers to this question with things like, if I were the author, I would have done it this way, or I would never have, whatever it is that they would have done differently. And then suddenly everyone starts brainstorming alternate endings and different plot twists, and it just makes for a really engaging conversation. Question number 4, did anything surprise you? Once again, this is perfect specifically for spoiler-friendly twists, reveals, or unexpected character arcs. I find even the most predictable plots have little surprises that someone noticed, and it's so fun to see how people perceive the story differently and how everyone is surprised by different things. And I also find it's really interesting because sometimes little moments go over someone's head and then someone else will bring it up and they were like, wow, I was really surprised about this moment, or this I really wasn't expecting, and then for the other person it suddenly clicks and that brings more value to the book experience. And I find that it's these tiny individual reactions that make the discussion richer, and that's where I find the conversation really starts to flow. Number 5, what's one line, moment, or scene that really stuck with you? This I find gets people into the deeper discussion. People often highlight completely different things, so again, that makes the conversation interesting. Some will pick, the dramatic moment, the climax of the book. Some others highlight tiny sentences that kind of made them feel a certain way, and it's just really interesting to see what everyone notices and what sticks with them. And I also love this question because it reminds us that every single reader sees different things in books, and for one person the book might do one thing, for the other person that read the exact same book it might do something completely different. And it's really interesting to see What is maybe a learning or something that this book brought up in you and that you're now carrying with you moving forward? Last but not least, this is a question that we always end our Busy with book club discussion with. Would you recommend this book, and to who? This, I find, opens up a bit of a broader conversation about reading tastes, genre preferences, and how people define a good book. One person might say, absolutely, this is perfect for fans of historical fiction. Another might say, no, I really didn't like it. It really wasn't my thing. We usually have people say, oh yeah, I already recommended it to my sister or my friend who is currently dealing with a specific challenge. I think this might be perfect for them. And I find it fascinating to see how subjective reading is, and I find it gives everyone the final freedom to defend their opinion and I give a closing statement. Now, last but not least, I have a few honorary mentions that I think work brilliantly when the energy is low. First up, one word to describe this book. This is always really interesting to see what words people choose. Would you read more from this author? Did the title fit the story? You could also ask, did the cover fit the story? I find people often do not even look at the cover or do not even think why the cover was made a certain way. I always think there's a lot to discover in the cover and the graphic design decisions that have been made around the visual of the book. Cast the main characters with real life actors. This is really interesting, especially when they have already announced that the book is going to become a TV show or a movie, and we already know who the actors are. It's even more funnier to then see who the people in your book group would have cast for this book. And last but not least, rate it out of 5 and explain why. I think this one is a classic question that you can never go wrong with. These questions I find are perfect for a quick wrap up or when you just want to get everyone talking without it turning into another 3-hour debate. Now, if you're not part of a book club just yet, or maybe your current one just isn't really doing it for you, then let me introduce you to the Busy with Books book club. Each month I have a book, I write discussion questions, and I create a cozy Zoom session where we talk about this book, and you will find one or the other question from this video in that discussion for sure. The thing that makes this book club a little bit special is that every month I also include an exclusive Italian recipe that usually comes from my very own recipe book, recipes that my family have been doing for decades and that you probably wouldn't really find at a restaurant around you or even a restaurant in Italy. They're often the recipes that I make at home and that are more the traditional, authentic Italian recipes. So how does book club work? You don't really have to do anything apart from reading the book. You just show up, you bring your favorite drink, maybe a cozy little blanket if it's winter, you can bring some snacks, and we chat about a great book. Like I said, you do not need to prepare anything. I come up with the questions, I lead the conversation. You just have to show up and you don't even have to talk if you don't want to. You can also just listen, hear everyone's opinions, chime into the chat, or just watch the replay if you couldn't make it live. But it's all about enhancing the reading experience. And instead of just reading the book and moving on to the next, we actually take some time to unpack what's in there. And I find that that makes books stick around in your brain for just a little bit longer. Catch you in the next video or hopefully inside the Busy with Books book club. Bye bye.